Row over H.S. Doreswamy has refused to die down in Karnataka. The Karnataka Assembly was adjourned yesterday following an uproar about BJP MLA A. Patil Yatnal, who recently called the centenarian freedom fighter H.S. Doreswamy a fake freedom fighter and a Pakistani agent. Karnataka Congress leader Siddaramaiah raised the matter in the Assembly on Monday and commotion followed, after which the House was adjourned for the day. Opposition parties thronged the well of the House, demanding that they be allowed to raise the matter and forcing repeated adjustments. The ruling BJP opposed attempts by the leader of the opposition, Siddaramaiah, to raise the issue without any prior notice.
ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿದವರೇ, ವಾಜಪೇಯಿಯವರು ಹೋರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ಬೇರೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಆದರೂ ಹೋರಾಟ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಹೋರಾಟಗಾರರು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮಾಡ್ಯಾರ. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ನಕಲಿ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಹೋರಾಟಗಾರರು ಅದಾರ, ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲದಾರಲ್ಲ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಾಗ. ಈಗ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ದೊರೆಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಯಾರು, ಎಲ್ಲಿದ ನಾವು ಮುತ್ತೆ ಏಜೆಂಟ್, ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನ ಏಜೆಂಟ್ರಾಗ ಮಾತಾಡಕತ್ತಾನೆ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ರಿ, ವಿಚಾರ ಮಾಡಿ.
He came out with a version that it is not possible for the, you can't, I will not allow for the discussion and all that. The Chief Minister himself, once he made a commitment and now he went back. So he passed an order on the notice that I have given. It is an illegal order.
He dismissed your notice.
Yes, rejected my notice. Yes, rejected my notice. It is an illegal order. And he has yielded to the pressure of the government.
So will you continue protesting?
Yes, we will continue our protest.
All right, Joyita Basu with me in the studio, editor of the Sunday Guardian. Sumit, political analyst, also joins me on the debate. Professor G.V.R. Shastri, political analyst. And last but not the least, Mr. P.K.D. Nambiar, political analyst, also joins us on the platform. Joyita, where do you stand on this? The fact of the matter that Mr. Doreswamy, a freedom fighter, has shown a leaning, if I may call it, towards certain parties which perhaps might be opposed to the BJP, such as the Aam Aadmi Party. He's also time and again sporadically shown his dissent towards the Citizenship Amendment Act. Do you think this was perhaps the reason for the kind of atmosphere we got to see in the Karnataka Assembly today?
In fact, frankly, if you ask me, Doreswamy is over 100 years
101.
old. He's 101. He's a very spirited gentleman, very old, very spirited gentleman. He is obviously an idealist, and obviously he has come to believe that the CAA is against the interest of India, whether you agree with it or not. But the fact of the matter is that leave him to do whatever he wants to do. I mean, frankly, to make him a matter of politics and to say things like he is pro-Pakistan and all that, I think that is something best avoided. You see, this is the problem with the BJP and some MLAs also, I mean from different parties, who make these very quote-unquote uneducated statements which frankly do not go down well with the public. You may not agree with him, but you do not brand him as pro-Pakistan.
Correct.
Somebody as senior as Doreswamy. I think this is something the BJP people, as I said, I mean, such things happen from other political parties as well. These are the motor mouths who need to basically be reined in. They have to stop talking nonsense.
Okay, Sumit, we are back to the dissent that exists amongst parties when it comes to the CAA, and this is nothing but a microcosm of the bigger picture that we in fact got to see in Delhi, where opposing forces, when they collide, they don't care how senior a certain individual is, how revered or accomplished a certain individual is. What do you think of what happened in the Karnataka Assembly today? In fact, Mr. Siddaramaiah, when he did approach the well of the House, there was a hue and cry that he did not take prior permission to do so.
I think
he was just defending a freedom fighter.
Vinit ji, we have all the respect for Mr. Doreswamy, and he's a very senior person, right? I think 101, what I read the last. So if he is protesting CA and all, let it be his personal opinion and let's leave it to him, because as a citizen he has a right to protest. Unless and until this is the stated position of BJP, I don't think it was right for Mr. Siddaramaiah to join in. I mean, to jump into the controversy. If you jump in, you're only going to make political controversies bigger. The best thing is, if somebody said, and as long as it's not a party line, you should have asked the question, is this your party line or this is your individual line? If this is an individual line, let that person come and clarify, because what our the remarks are, they are unwarranted for, I would say. I mean, that's the thing I could say. But now Mr. Siddaramaiah getting into it and all, it will only amplify it. It will make it bigger. So unfortunately, when things like that happen, media has to cover. It comes on social media. People have to take sides. Parties will have to take sides. But as a matter of fact, remains this is a very senior person, and if he has some reservations against CA, let him be with that. There's no problem with that. Let him be with that.
Mr. Nambiar, Doraiswamy has been. He's made certain comments in the past against the Prime Minister as well. He's spoken against V. Savarkar as well, and he's an all-out, a very open, opponent of the CAA as well. Do you think that was perhaps the reason that we got to see what we saw today in the Karnataka Assembly? Is that right?
No, firstly, I am of the opinion that if you don't like somebody's comment, so you immediately go and call him as a Pakistan agent, may not be in the right spirit. That may not be the way we in our politics we should be conducting our politics of today. Having said that, if you really look at in the south of India, especially since I hail from the state of Kerala, there has also been a trend in the south of India that portraying some people larger than life kind of an image, wherein they have been given such kind of stuff that they are the biggest freedom fighters. You know the controversy about the Tipu Sultan, how many millions of Hindus he has been butchered across, he has broken so many temples, but then he has been given such kind of a heroistic view in the education side everywhere. Even in the school curriculums, he has been treated as a hero, whereas the history clearly says that he has killed so many Hindus, converted a large number of people. Same way, if you really look at it in the same way, Mapila Lehala, which is called as the Muslim rebellion in the Khilafat things in the Kerala 1921, it is also now treated as more of like wherein millions of Hindus have been either converted or butchered. He has been treated as a freedom fighting. I can only say that the double standards of creating heroes from nowhere, I think a lot of time the BJP MLAs, people like them also give such kind of an opportunity to create. Mr. Doraiswamy at his, he has the all kind of rights to go against the CAA. Nobody can question if he wanted to go against the CAA, but it is also important to know the anti-CAA protest across the country, we have clearly seen it is being completely motivated without even knowing what it stands, without even telling the people that whether the CAA is going to take away anybody's citizenship. Nobody, no opposition leader, no people who are protesting has been able to convey that to anybody till today, that whether the citizenship of any Indian who is residing in India other than the people who are infiltrated to this country will be affected. But I think there are times we unnecessarily create controversies, and people likes to, the politicians knowingly or unknowingly do get into it. But only one thing I must tell you all of you is that the south of India is trying to make a lot of heroes wherein they were all real villains. Whether it is a Tipu Sultan, whether it is a Mapila rebellion which has happened in the 1921, where the Hindus were clearly butchered all across, have been now treated as freedom fighters and heroes. I think this also needs to end. We need to go back to the history and tell the people what is the truth and what is not really the truth. Okay. I think it's a high time for all of us to understand.
Okay, well, Sumit, Doraiswamy is not somebody who should be mentioned in such a vain reference. He was part of the Quit India movement. He in fact helped organize 8,000 students and was very instrumental in making that particular movement a success. At the same time, this episode which transpired in Karnataka today also points out to the number of differences which have been spurring up in terms of governance and style. Earlier there was also a ruckus over Tipu Sultan and whether he should be allowed in the textbooks in that state as well. And we all know what happened in Karnataka, what kind of a political mayhem, what kind of a political fallout we got to see, and how the BJP came in. Operation Kamal is what I'm referring to. What do you make of what's happening in Karnataka at this point in time? Because this slugfest at times does not know any bounds. These pot shots that are taken at each other, and especially towards a senior leader such as Doraiswamy, that leads you to believe that there is some room for improvement when it comes to respecting each other, despite having differences with each other?
I think Viniji, how I see that, we have to see this case in isolation. The choice of words was not appropriate. I want to go on here saying that there is no need to get personal with anybody and calling them names. Everybody has contributed in India. But there's another pertinent point which my fellow panelists raised and which you raised, because you don't have to see this case in isolation, because there have been concerted efforts to make Tipu Sultan as a hero. Now, Vineet, we all know what is written on his sword. There's a clear line which says that dismantling the kafirs, who is a kafir here, is the biggest sawab or karma you can do. And we all know how many Hindus he has butchered. Now, when you make such people hero, right, people like Tipu Sultan, and when you, at the same set of people also support Mr. Doraiswamy, there are people who will have doubts, who will say, are you picking up anything to, pin this government down or to bring a narrative against this government? Because having said, we have to keep Mr. Doraiswamy separate. I'm repeating again, the choice of words was not appropriate. But why are we bringing people like Tipu Sultan? Yesterday we had a debate at 9 o'clock when your managing editor said, what if some people say, the Muslims of India say, nothing to do with Tipu Sultan and Aurangzeb? I said, yes, fair enough, they have nothing to do with him. But the problem comes when you start making them heroes. When you say we are the bloodline of Aurangzeb, or when you say we are the bloodline of Tipu Sultan.
Them heroes? Are you saying Doraiswamy is responsible for making Tipu Sultan?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the problem starts there. When you start making people heroes. Right? When you start making people like Tipu Sultan heroes, Vineet, we cannot brush aside our history. History is truth. We all know what happened in the history. It's better let that be known and, dissociate yourself. Whatever Aurangzeb did, whatever Tipu Sultan did, let it be his karma and let him live or die with them. And, we forget it. We don't neither have to associate with self or neither we have to own them up. The best way for the country to move forward is dissociate. That was done by him at his individual capacity. We are neither backing it or there's no point to criticize it now because there's nothing which can be done now. But when politics starts, when the camps start taking sides, then the aspersions start coming in, the doubts start coming in. There are all reasons for somebody to have a doubt. But again, having said that, the choice of words in this case was not appropriate and should not have been told.
Okay, well, there was a ruckus in the parliament today, but nevertheless, 8 bills did pass. But JP, my colleague, has this to say about what happened in the Karnataka Assembly today. Let's listen in.
A controversial remark made by BJP MLA Basavanagoda Patil Yatnal regarding H.S. Doraiswamy, a 105-year-old freedom fighter who fought for the freedom of this country, has ended in a deadlock between the Congress and the BJP. Now, Yatnal called Doraiswamy a fake freedom fighter and a Pakistan agent. Now, he also criticized him, stating that H.S. Doraiswamy was indulging in criticizing Modi and the BJP at large. Now, Doraiswamy, on the other hand, made comments about Veer Savarkar and the ideology of BJP. Now, this has ended in a deadlock, and the House session, which is now called to present the budget, is being stalled continuously for the second day. In fact, opposition leader Siddaramaiah moved a petition this morning with the speaker to expel Yatnal from the House and also allow for a discussion on this subject. Now, the speaker, who had initially agreed for a discussion, later ruled in the afternoon that he will not allow this discussion to happen because these were the comments which were made outside the well of the House, and that the House is not allowed to take up discussions on this issue, or this case doesn't merit for expulsion of Yatnal. Having said that, it's the clash of ideology between the Congress and the BJP. Today and tomorrow, which is the 3rd and 4th, a discussion on constitution was supposed to happen on the floor of the House, but looks like the logjam is not going to end any sooner. With camera person Venkatesh Perumal, Jayaprakash, NewsX from Bengaluru.
Okay, well, there's more to talk about pertaining to this topic. Is it just a random insult which was meted out to Doraiswamy, who has in fact been instrumental when it comes to the freedom struggle of India, or is there a larger context over here? Is this the CAA which keeps spurring up in different avenues and through different tangents? All right, some untoward remarks were made towards Mr. Doraiswamy and Joyita Basu. Before we took a break, the question I wanted to ask you was that these comments which are being slipped in, these insults, this mortification of a senior freedom fighter. I wouldn't even want to call him a leader, a freedom fighter, 101 years of age. Do you think there's a larger context in the South which is being sort of vented through by these comments? Is the CAA at the back of all of this? And whoever is at, perhaps the receiving end of these unsavory remarks is disagreeing with the law, and that is why bearing the brunt.
No, first of all, it is about our political discourse, the depths to which our political discourse has descended. And especially, in fact, it is not just a southern phenomenon. Don't even want to call it it's an all India phenomenon. I mean, parliamentarians, and legislators, they speak sometimes the most atrocious language, and they go to their constituencies also. They talk about Pakistan, for example, is a favorite whipping boy during elections. The kind of comments that are made, and the kind of comments, for example, even the opposition, for example, calling the Prime Minister chode and all that, the kind of depths that the political discourse has descended to, it is really, really sad. Having said that, what exactly is happening in Bangalore, it seems like, obviously Mr. Doraiswamy is a very, very idealistic man. He believes in certain causes. And now what obviously is that the anti-CAA protesters who think they can mobilize, they are making use of his name. But at the same time, if he is willingly part of it, he should be allowed to be part of it. You are allowing these Shaheen Bagh protesters to continue for 2 months, 2.5 months. They are actually inconveniencing people. Here is this very respected, very revered, very senior gentleman. If he protests, let him do that. What is the problem? In fact, BJP needs to rein in its MLAs. You should not be talking nonsense like that.
Mr. Nambiar, how detrimental is this kind of an oratory for the BJP, especially in Karnataka, where getting back into power was a wafer-thin affair just a few months back for the Bharatiya Janata Party?
Irrespective of any political party, especially if you are from the ruling side, you should be very cautious of using what kind of a word you should use. And calling somebody of a 101-year-old, whether it is a freedom fighter or for that matter anybody, calling a Pakistani agent is definitely not in the good taste. But in the meantime, as I go back to what I said initially, there is another kind of set of conspiracy, or I would say a created heroism is happening. A lot of people have been created from this anti-CAA protesters have been suddenly given a heroic outlook by various media and many other political people without even having any kind of a background to it. I think this is equally very, very bad. I would say that a large number of movements, political movements, social movements have created heroes in this country, but without even having a real reasons for it, just going and talking about I don't approve of CAA, this is anti-Muslim, so then suddenly that person become a hero. Calling Azadi slogans everywhere, you start giving him a feeling of a heroism. I think this is not really going to be the way this country should function today. I think, but having said that, I simply disapprove of the fact that calling a 101-year-old freedom fighter, calling him as a Pakistan agent, whether it is a BJP or a Congress or for that matter anybody, is not acceptable. He has lived his whole life here. What is his contribution is a secondary thing, but not calling anybody as a Pakistan agent is not acceptable.
Okay.
But one more thing I just wanted to add, Karnataka and especially the south of India have got a certain kind of, especially from the point of view for Congress, they cherish creating Muslim heroism. From nowhere, they may not have been even a part of any kind of movement which is in the interest of the country, but suddenly they may have been an anti-Hindu, they may have even ran an anti-Hindu movement like a Tipu Sultan, but suddenly you try to give them a heroic outlook and create them as if they are the one who had given all the freedom what we enjoy today. This is equally not acceptable. I think the political parties in this country should rise above the typical communal or any kind of dirty politics and work towards in the interest of the nation rather than they are just a simple electoral or an immediate whatever benefit you may look at it.
Okay.
This is my take on this.
Okay, Sumit, the larger context also has to be addressed that, these motor mouths have to be reined in. Motor mouths like Mr. Mishra in Delhi, who made certain unsavory remarks, and Anurag Thakur, Mr. Verma, Pawan Verma of Delhi, and now Mr. Yatnal in Karnataka. Do you think the Bharatiya Janata Party actually needs to set an example and start pulling up these, leaders for being responsible about what they say? Because at the end of the day, it is tarnishing the image of the party.
I think the point here is whatever Mr. Kapil Mishra or Mr. Anurag Thakur said, that is on the open platform. That's on the media everywhere.
They haven't been reprimanded.
No,
right? They have been reprimanded by the election commission.
But you see, we need to see the bigger thing. What about those people who are every day creating ruckus on social media? What about those slogans which happen in these protest sites? What about this Jinnah wali Azadi?
But does that absolve these people? Does that absolve these people?
No, that does not. But when you talk of action, my friend, you have to talk of action for all these.
Right.
What about these people on the social media? What about those people who are vehemently
are we living in such an absolute
India?
world?
Look at the CNN interview yesterday, sir.
Are we living in such an absolute world?
No, we have to look. If we are talking of one thing, we have to talk of everybody. Why these 3-4 people? I again
Let's
say
talk
the
about
choice of words may not be appropriate, sir. But when you talk of this building the narrative, it has to all these people. What kind of slogans happen there? Hindutva ki kabar khunegi. What does that mean? Jinnah wali Azadi. What does that mean? Breaking the chicken neck. What does that mean? And then all these people go scot-free because you unfortunately have one Kapil Mishra or Anurag Thakur, and we want to put everything on them or this MLA from Karnataka. But at the end of the day, who are the people who run the roid factories? Where does the arson come from? Who are the people who shoot at the police? Who are those social media people who are spilling venom every day across the length and breadth of the country? Those students chanting slogans. And let's not forget that interview on CNN.
How can they be compared to Doraswamy?
No, see, I'm not comparing anybody. Look at that one-sided interview on goddamn CNN, wherein there is a person who is just saying that this was a state-sponsored genocide. My question is, sir, what are we doing for that Indian citizen who is still roaming free? Is it a state-sponsored genocide? Do we have still some temerity left? क्या बात कर रहे हैं हम? We are holding people to task for one comment. What about these people who are going to international media channels, who are casting aspersions, who are creating stories, who are creating theories and letting the world know? It's like when you get a buddy, take an interview and broadcasting from your channel. That will be setting the wrong narrative that is being set, and these people are Indian citizens. When we want action, we want for everybody across the board. Nobody is above the law. Jisne jo kiya, he should be held accountable. Let's not choose these 3-4 names and point all our guns to them. If it is everybody or nobody.
Okay, Joyita, does this in fact make for a pragmatic argument that if one certain party or if one certain sect of society is not prosecuting people for crossing a line, the largest party in the country will also not do so? Do you buy that argument?
No, there is no. First of all, there is no excuse for BJP not reining in its motor mouths. The BJP cannot allow the people to talk the way, cannot allow some of its leaders to talk the way they are talking. But at the same time, I'm totally going to agree with Sumit at what he said, but that there are too many social media influencers for that matter. Among them you will find several Bollywood actresses and directors, and there are many journalists. And yes, I totally agree with that CNN interview that we saw. Sometimes outright lies are being spread. A lot of fake news is being spread. Sometimes they are shrill. It is unbelievable. Sometimes the Home Minister is being called names, the Prime Minister is being called names. Filthy adjectives are being used, something people like us will never even dream of using. Forget about even in public.
No accountability.
We are not even going to say such things in private. But those people are coming and saying all these things. So when when we are talking about political discourse in this country, hitting the nadir, I would say that even these people, all sides, both sides to be, all sides will have to be made accountable. There's a need to clean up the language that we see in public space.
Okay, with that thought, we'll end the show that there is a definite need to clean up the language. Leaders who've been chosen by the citizens of this country need to be more responsible when it comes to admonishing or criticizing, the people on the other side of the spectrum, because no matter what you say, it has to be done within demarcations of decency. It has to be done within limits of appropriate.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.